We are joined now by the co-founder of the Forum of British Pubs, Dave Mountford. Hi, Dave.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. So the 19th of July in England, at least, how excited are you if the reports of people being able to queue at the bar, no social distancing, how important is that to the British pub industry?
Oh, it's hugely important. We've been kind of waiting for this now for obviously the best part of a year and a half. We've been probably the most regulated industry, I would say, in the country. We've also been one of the hardest hit as a result of those regulations. It's had a massive effect. We've lost over 2,000 pubs, probably will never reopen. And it just can't come fast enough. We are an industry which has been penalised a great deal. And we're struggling before this pandemic kind of affected us so badly. So it's going to make a huge difference to the costs that people are paying. Our pubs running at around about 8 or 9% cost, higher cost than it was before the pandemic. And we're only at 80% of our pre-COVID turnover. So you don't need to be a genius to work out that you're not going to be anywhere near as profitable as you were.
Around 500,000 people are employed in pubs and bars in the UK. I agree with you, Dave. I do think the pub sector's been penalised. I don't think the civil servants have clocked the fact that pubs are generally much, much better ventilated, particularly because a lot of your members have put in extra ventilation at great cost. But I'm thinking about the atmosphere. Obviously, as and when Freedom Day happens, particularly if we carry on doing really well in the football, there's going to be a great atmosphere in pubs. But do you think something has changed? Do you think something has broken in the British pub industry because of what we've lost over the last 12 to 18 months?
I think the market has changed. I think there's going to be a very distinct change in our customer base. People have spent kind of 18 months drinking at home. And it's been very noticeable that there was very much not a great deal of an uplift from the first two phases when the pubs reopened for outside only. A lot of pubs bounced back quite well, and I was expecting a second bounce back when we could go inside with the social restrictions, and that never really occurred to a lot of people. So that kind of led us to believe that the die-hard drinkers were the people that were coming back to the pub, and they stayed with us. The casual drinkers maybe not so much. If you're the market in the industry is so wide and varied, it's very difficult to really comment specifically. But city centre pubs, especially in London, hugely hit because nobody's at work. They're still working from home. Whereas a pub like myself, which has been very much based on tourism in the Peak District in Derbyshire, and locals, we've been a little bit lucky, or luckier than a lot of people. It's very difficult to pin down. It also affects, the big effect is whether you are tied to a large pub chain who have behaved pretty appallingly, the owners of the pubs, or whether you're a free house like myself. So you're going to be more profitable when you reopen, and you could a lot more choice. And you haven't got the level of rent debt that a lot of people have got when they've opened. There are a variety of different factors that are affecting the success or the failure of pubs. But yeah, this will just be the 19th will just be a great relief to a lot of people. So at least we'll then be able to know just what the market is and what we need to do to address the changes and the challenges that we're facing.
I've also been reading about no-shows and the increase in no-shows. Is that a new thing that's happened? Why have people become so selfish, if so?
It's just been appalling. We've been affected just like everyone else, and no-shows has been. I don't know. I can't explain why. It was never such a major issue before. I sometimes think that perhaps people kind of hedge their bets and book in a variety of different places. We had a classic example for the football the other night. We were fully booked. We were restricted, obviously, because of the restrictions. We're outside and inside with TV, so we'd rigged that up quite well. But we could have booked, at a certain table 4 or 5 times over, and the people just didn't show up. It's not always possible to take a deposit. I've read and seen lots of stories about people who have taken a deposit and then had really unpleasant TripAdvisor reviews afterwards. You kind of can't win. But yeah, it is a real problem, and it's kind of kicking us while we're down, I think, to a certain degree.
Dave, I mean, I would. It's easy for me to say some, well-paid bloke in the media, but I think we should be moving to a system of deposits. It's so easy to take a deposit on a card now, and then if you cancel within 2 hours of the table, you get your deposit back. It's as simple as that. It is difficult to know if you've got a family with kids, if you're all going to turn up, if you can even, take the table booking that you've made, and people understand that. But do you think there's any chance that the government may actually move to at least try and change the culture on this? Because if a pub or a restaurant does ask for a deposit, people can get a bit sniffy and then attack you on TripAdvisor. But on the other hand, your members, they're buying food, they're putting tables aside for families to turn up, and then they don't turn up. And then, of course, the terrible thing is when people ring up at the last minute, oh, can we come in 10 minutes? Sorry, we're fully booked. And then other people don't turn up. You've lost twice.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be confident that this government would do anything at all to support pubs, because they've proved themselves to be grossly incompetent over the last year and a half. So I've given up. I've worked with this government for the last 10 years on the introduction of legislation which is supposed to protect publicans, tenants running pubs, which has been a bit of a disaster. So, to your first point is I wouldn't really be very confident that this is going to be a priority for governments. They don't like interfering with business relationships, and consequently, when they do, they generally make a mess of it. It is something that we're going to have to move to. It is a difficult one. I personally find it quite difficult to ask for. It goes against the grain of hospitality, I think, to a certain degree. But realistically, it's one of those things that you mentioned at the start of this discussion, in that, one of the things where things are going to have to change. And we're in contact with a lot of members and a lot of people on social media, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that change. People are now, becoming much more, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to use a word other than aggressive, but kind of very upfront about, if we're going to take a table of 8 or 6 or 4, but then you need to book and you need to pay a deposit, and we'll take it from you. And if you don't turn up, we'll keep it. It is difficult, especially if your market is sort of a little bit transient. But yeah, it's where we've got to be. But it's going to have to come from the publicans, the tenants working with their customer base. It certainly won't come from government, I'm afraid.
Dave, the Euros must have provided a lifeline for many pubs. Tell us about the preparations that you're making ahead of Wednesday.
Okay, well, we're fully booked already. A lot of people already were. We actually, again, because of the restrictions, we find ourselves, we're not a big pub. We've got outside space. We've got a very large marquee, but frustratingly, we can't use that because we're only licensed till 9 o'clock for that. So we're kind of restricted, but we're full, which is great, and we're all prepped up and ready to go. But actually, we're pretty much full with the same people that have watched the previous 2 games. And the problem we've got at the moment is the Sunday game, because there's anticipation of obviously getting to the final, which I'm reasonably confident about. It's going to be the toughest game we'll face so far, I believe, but nevertheless, I think we'll get there. And I think there are a lot of people now phoning up and booking for the final, and we're kind of having to juggle the loyalty to the people who have followed us and kept with us so far who haven't booked, and we know will. So, it's just a logistics exercise, really. But interestingly, the feedback I'm getting, and certainly it's the feedback that we've got from our pub, is that the Euros have affected food. So if you're a food-led pub, your food sales have declined. And that has been very noticeable, certainly in our pub. But we're doing a lot more drink, as you would expect. So it kind of evens out, to be fair. But that's the feedback we're getting from most of our members and a lot of people on social media. Dave, in one sentence, did you ever think of throwing in the towel during the pandemic? No, we didn't. But we're much luckier than most. We're a free house, we're privately owned, and so we're in a different boat to a lot of people. But I know a lot of people have. That was more than one sentence, but it's you know, a lot of people have thrown in the towel, I can assure you. And I'm helping people all over the country get out of their pubs because they simply can't make them work.
Dave Mountford, founder, the Forum of British Pubs. Good man. Good to see you.
Thank you.